Hey guys, welcome to the stream. My name's Josh. This is Cultivate Your Best Self, where it's about cultivating a deeper knowledge of yourself, who you aspire to become, and how and why you value time and money. The the first thing that my wife just told me before this started was, make sure your mic's on. The last stream, oh man, the last stream was a fail. I was talking for like 35 minutes with my microphone off. I didn't realize I had turned it off before I started the stream. I left it up, kind of as an example of, we don't always get these things right, but you learn from your mistakes and you move forward. And yeah, and in that description, I posted a resource for you guys that shows the summary of each of the different topics that I talked about in that video that was basically muted the whole time. But yeah, so in this particular live stream, I want to talk about what's important to you, finding clarity in your life's purpose, and the whole inspiration for this live stream comes from Greg McKeown's Greg McKeown's book Essentialism. And I don't have that book on me, do I? Oh yeah, let me go grab it really quickly. Oh, my dog thought I was playing, but yeah, so this book right here, Greg McKeown's Essentialism. I highly recommend it. It definitely helps you gain clarity on kind of eliminating some of the things that aren't really as important in your life as you give time to. A lot of us give time to things that aren't essential in our lives, and it takes away from our potential to achieve more, to do more of what we love and find more fulfillment and purpose in our lives. So I'm going to go through and talk about some of the topics that are in this book. I have kind of really brief overviews of what I'll be talking about on the side here under assumptions to overcome, number 1, and then the stages that we need to go through in order to kind of find out what our purpose is. So let's go through it. Let me pull up my notes here on the side. And, feel free to, grab a drink, come hang out, grab a snack. And we'll just talk about, some of the things that are covered in this book. And all of this stuff is just so fascinating to me. I love talking. I can talk about all this stuff, all the time. Anything that has to do with, personal growth, balanced personal growth, or, growth mindset, positive mindset in general, things that, help you move forward in a productive way that, gets you to where you want to be. Because I'm all about finding ways to help you live a healthier, happier, and more fulfilled life. So yeah, let's get into this. So part 1, assumptions to overcome. These are really some of the things that you really need to think about that a lot of us kind of gloss over while we live our lives. And it can be difficult to come to terms with the fact that everything we do is basically our choice. You may not think you have a choice whether or not you go to work, but you do. There are consequences, of course, but telling yourself I have to a lot of things is a surefire way to not really deeply analyze whether or not you really do have to do something. Because there are certain things that you absolutely don't have to do in your life. And, one of the examples that I was thinking to myself was, just this last year, I had been working the same corporate job for about 8 years. And I kind of told myself in my head, I have to keep doing this. My wife and I probably can't survive very long without, a stable income. And it wasn't until I actually started taking our finances much more seriously that I was able to have us build a much more robust emergency fund. And so that gave me time to step away from a job that I wasn't happy in, that I wasn't fulfilled in, and kind of take a step back and observe, what, I needed to gain clarity on why I wasn't happy with where I was. And there are certain choices that led up to, me being able to make that choice, to step away from that job and then take another opportunity somewhere else. Hey, Suzanne, welcome to the stream. Glad to have you here, as always. My wife's giving me a big old smile. Yeah, and so, the main thing that, you have to try and understand is you always have a choice. You have a choice with how you react, in your thoughts, how you react with your attitude, and how you react with your behavior. Everything in life is a choice, and it's up to you to decide, what choice you make. A lot of the times what we do is we give up control, and the illusion of choice kind of disappears, or the feeling that we have the choice kind of disappears. Like we become reliant on the fact that we have to go to our job because we need that steady paycheck. But that's a choice of, you giving up that control. You also have the choice to work towards finding solutions outside of work to break you free from that. I just posted on X today. You are the answer to all of your problems, and I wholeheartedly believe that. It may be difficult for some to kind of come to terms with, how to find the solutions towards your problems, but you are absolutely the answer to all of your problems that you're going through. And if you don't feel that way, just let me know. What are some of the challenges that you're going through that you feel aren't your choice, or that you feel you have no control over? my dog is full of energy right now, and she's waiting for me to pick up this toy. Hey, let it go. Thank you. Oh man. Okay, so let's keep going. So, assumption number one, I have to, you need to challenge yourself in feeling like, you have a choice. Always choose choice over, feeling like you're obligated to do something. The second one is it's all important. And I definitely had trouble with this, last year? Yeah, last year I was exploring all kinds of ways to make income on the side of my main job, or my 9 to 5, and I was putting priority into basically everything. I was looking into affiliate marketing, I was looking into blogging, e-commerce, you name it. Like, I was probably looking into it and trying to put all of my energy into trying out each one of those different things all at once. And obviously, I can tell you that was an epic failure. Like I was so, my head was so wrapped around trying to make money on the, extra income on the side, that I didn't stop to think of, what's important to me. Why am I doing this one? And what aligns more with, the things that I believe in. And I didn't stop to think about that. All I could think about was, how can I make extra money on the side? And so I was just trying all these different things. And the problem with that is that I made it seem as though every single one of those things was important. So I put energy, small bits of energy, into each one. And by doing that, essentially none of it was important. And so I think that's basically like the main takeaway from this is, if you think everything's important, like if you have a task list that's so large and you don't know what to tackle first, and you think all of it's critically important, then the opposite is also true. None of it is actually important. So you have to be able to decide and distinguish between what's essential and what's non-essential. And then the third thing is I can do both, and that's more has more to do with, if say you're in a situation where friends ask you to come hang out, but you had already made plans that evening to, I don't know, work on, like, like if you have a social media account on Instagram, or if you wanted to read that evening, something, read something that was gonna help you move forward, help you grow in some way, but you blow it off because you're like, oh, you know what, I can do that another day. I can go hang out with my friends, and then you end up telling yourself, well, actually, why don't I just go hang out with my friends for an hour, and then I'll come back home, and then read for an hour, and then I'll go to bed. And you think you can do both. Oftentimes, what that leads to is you giving up at least one of those things, and feeling like you can do both is a recipe for failure, or a recipe for disappointment. The same is also true. This happened to me a number of times when I felt obligated when a manager would come to me, or someone higher than myself would come to me and say, "Hey, I know your plate is full, but can you handle this extra task that I need help with?" And me thinking, one, like, I don't want to seem like I'm looking bad, so I'm gonna take it on. But I, like, it's difficult because you don't want to appear like you're not capable, but at the same time, you have to be able to assert your stance in understanding, and having your whoever's above you understand. Look, I appreciate the opportunity that you're giving me, but right now, like, my plate is completely full, and I need to be able to focus on these in order to finish them in a timely manner, so that in the future I can take on additional work from you, or take on these extra opportunities that you have available for me. And when you have the confidence to say something like that to your superior, like, they'll respect you for it. They will. They'll likely end up going to someone else who can help them with the work. But like I said, like, you can't handle, you don't want to overwhelm yourself, because that's a recipe for disappointment, or a recipe for failure. So that's number 3. I can do both. Oops, hit the mic there. Let me go back. So I skipped ahead a little bit. So the book is called Essentialism. What I'm like, everything that I'm talking about is kind of inspired by what Greg Mckeown, I can't say his name. What Greg wrote. and the book is called Essentialism, and I want to talk a little bit about what an essentialist is. The core mindset of an essentialist is, number 1, individual choice, that we have choice, and I talked a little bit about that. We can choose how to spend our energy and our time. Number 2 is the prevalence of noise. Almost everything in life is noise. Just everything that you consume on a daily basis, news, radio, whatever it is, meetings at work, a lot of it is just noise. And there are very few things that are actually exceptionally valuable to you, and and to your life, and to moving you forward in your growth journey. And then number 3 is the reality of trade-offs. We can't have it all, and we can't do it all. There are going to be trade-offs that you ultimately have to accept as reality, because, like, a lot of the successful entrepreneurs that I follow, they almost all have stories of, kind of breaking free from, not breaking free, but like kind of breaking off from their original group of friends who accepted reality kind of as it is. Like, a lot of them had a group of friends that kind of subscribed to life's general life path, which is, like, go to school, get a degree, find a corporate job, move up the ladder, and then just work that job until you retire. And some of them, like some of the highly successful entrepreneurs that I follow, they kind of broke free from that, and a lot of them like end up, starting basically from the bottom, which is where I feel I'm at right now, kind of. but but then they end up, they believe in themselves, and then they tell themselves, failure, is a great learning tool, but it's not a choice for them to stop if they fail. Like they're gonna keep going until they succeed. And when you have that, it doesn't matter how many times I fail. Like I'm gonna keep going until I succeed. There's no stopping you. It takes people. It takes some people a lot longer than others to achieve that success, but typically what happens is, as long as you keep going, there's some moment, and what I found is it happens at different times for different people, but I think the most common timeline is around 5 years, where you're just putting all this effort into finding ways to live life on your terms, that that there's this moment where just your success exponentially grows, and it's kind of overwhelming, but it's the success that they were working so hard towards. And it wasn't until they made that conscious choice to break away and kind of trade off the, you know working on themselves, and not hanging out with their friends as much, to find that success eventually. And that's kind of what the reality of trade-offs is. Like I kind of stopped going to as many social events with some of my friends, to work towards building something else here on the side. Building a community, building a brand, building something that can give my life more meaning, and then give more time back to me in the future, so that I can spend that with my wife, my son, and my dog Luna, that you can see kind of right there. She's chewing on her toy. But yeah, so there's a reality of trade-offs. That you're not gonna be able to have it all, and the reality is that you're going to be sacrificing some things in order to gain others. The roadmap. So this leads into the roadmap for what it means to become an essentialist. And that roadmap is the stages that I have listed there on the side: explore, eliminate, and execute. And so, very briefly, explore. There are three critical questions that you should ask yourself when it comes to exploration. And when I talk about exploration, I mean like exploring things that you enjoy, exploring things that you're passionate about. And one of the questions is, what do I feel deeply inspired by? And that's a really excellent question for you to ask yourself, to understand, what might be important to you and your life. Second question is, what am I particularly talented at? It's another great question to ask yourself. And number three, what meets a significant need in the world? And so when I think about myself and these questions, it's kind of tough, but what do I feel deeply inspired by? I feel deeply inspired by seeing others make a living off helping other people, helping other people succeed and solving their problems in exchange, for, their lifestyle, or, their way of life, and a lot of these people, like a lot of the people that I follow, they all truly believe that it is their purpose to help others. And that's what I feel like I've been put here for as well. I'm here to help you in some way, and I may not know exactly what that is right now, but I can assure you I'm going to figure that out. I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to make a business out of it one day. And when I do, there's I just I can't see myself retiring. Like there's no retirement for me in sight. Like this is something that I would work towards my entire life, or put my life into within reasonable means. Like I would want to spend plenty of time with my family, and watch my son, and if my wife and I have a future kid, spend time with my kids. And that's kind of like the ultimate thing. Like at the end of life, the thing that everything comes back to is really like the relationships you cultivate and the experiences that you have. That's what life kind of boils down to, is like at the end of it, like when you're looking back, it's going to be these moments of you know these wonderful experiences that you had with the people that were the closest to you. And everything I do here on this channel is aimed at allowing you to build more of those memories with the people that you love. And I truly believe that everything I talk about will contribute towards getting you to where you want to be. So that's what I'm deeply inspired by. What am I particularly talented at? I There's a lot of things. Okay, I'm overly ambitious, I would say. I'm ambitious, but I don't have all the knowledge I need. So I need to understand more. I need to gain more knowledge. And one of the things that I admitted to myself recently is that I'm not promoting myself enough to where like if my goal is to help you, like help you, reach a goal of yours, or help you with your health or your wealth or your relationships, whatever it is, I'm not doing enough to promote myself to be that coach for you, and or consultant, or whatever you want to call it. Like I I have that innate fear, I have that fear inside of me of I don't know, like call it imposter syndrome. Like I don't feel I'm quite there yet. So that's why I'm using these live sessions as a way to kind of to display the amount of knowledge that I have, that I've gained from reading all these books, and studying all these successful entrepreneurs, business people, and even in going into the into more depth with the psychology and the neuroscience behind understanding why like we procrastinate, or why we stress over things, why we act the way we do. All of that fascinates me and gives me ammunition. It gives me, not ammunition, but it gives me tools in my belt to help other people succeed. And I'm trying to find ways to organize that and put it into a framework so that I can help people kind of systematically. And so when it comes to what I'm particularly talented at, I'm ambitious. I believe I can succeed. Another thing is my knowledge management is really great. I I choose what I consume. Typically, not all the time. I go on TikTok every once in a while and I'll laugh at some of the things that are on there. But most of the time, I'm very selective about what I consume, and I have a second brain system that I've developed from Tiago Forte. If you haven't heard of Tiago Forte, look him up. He developed, he wrote the book Building a Second Brain, and I used Thomas Frank is a really popular Notion guy on YouTube, and he used Tiago Forte's kind of format for building a second brain in Notion, which is a project, basically a project management and note taking system, digital system. And I use that on a daily basis. So I'm really great at being organized, being able to, recall. I'm better at recall when it comes to all of the knowledge that I've consumed. I take my time. I don't take a month to read 100 books. I read maybe one book, but I analyze it, and I take from it the critical things that I think will help me move forward, and then I share what I think is important for other people to understand about what I read, or what I took away from that book. So I'm really talented at that, at 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 retaining knowledge and being able to retrieve it when I need it. And then another thing is understanding like the psychology behind why we do some of the things that we do. I Before I met my wife, I'll tell you guys a quick story. So before I met my wife, I was in a lot of people's business. A lot of my friends would come to me for advice. And it's because I think I had kind of this natural tendency to not be so judgmental when they told me about some of the issues that they were going through, and I was open to helping them out. But one of the things that started to occur was that I was taking on too much, and it was starting to affect me because I can be very empathetic, and a lot of what people were going through was starting to affect me to the point where I had a panic attack around the time that I was gonna start dating my wife. And I remember having this conversation with her when we were into our relationship, because I was hanging out with a lot of people, in addition to my wife at the time, and I told her about the episode that I had, that panic attack that I had, because I was kind of overwhelmed with everything that I was dealing with. When someone wouldn't like necessarily take my advice and they would repeat a mistake over again, it would be a little bit frustrating, and like just there was this kind of culmination of like things going wrong in my life where all of those issues just kind of compounded, and then I just broke down. And so when I talked to my wife at the time, my girlfriend, well, we were dating, but when we had talked about it at the time, she was like, you need to take a step back and work on yourself, work on kind of recollecting yourself, and not being so involved in their lives, because those are issues that they kind of have to figure out for themselves. And it's great that you're willing to be there for them, and kind of open up and allow them in, but you have to be able to not let it affect you that way, because it's bad for your mental health. So there has to be what's it called? There has to be that line that you can't cross, because once you do, it becomes too overwhelming for you. So how did I get into this? Talking about the what am I particularly talented at? So I took a step back. And that need for me to want to help people never went away. And I think I would be better now. In fact, I know I would be better now at being able to clearly define what that line is, and not go so far into people's issues, because it's a recipe for disappointment. Like there are certain things that you can help people with and certain things that you can't, and I know that I can make a difference in people's lives. It's just kind of defining what that clear line is, and allowing people to open up to me, and just helping them out, and kind of getting over that fear of putting myself out there. But I kind of lost track of went off on a tangent again, but lost track. But I was talking about, what are you particularly talented at, and that kind of led into that. But and then what meets a significant need in the world, and some of the biggest problems that people are dealing with today is simply like being overwhelmed by the amount of information that's available to them. Social media addiction is really a huge problem right now. Self-awareness, self-awareness that can really, when you work on your self-awareness, it can really propel your career forward if that's something that you're looking to do. And I took a test from someone who is an expert in their field of in the field of self-awareness. And this person, her name's Tasha Urich. She developed a quiz, and I took it with my wife. You're supposed to take it with someone close to you, and we were able to determine that I'm highly self-aware, which is great. It's a very rare, it's a rare trait, but it's a skill that you can learn. And that's one thing that I probably, like, if I were to work with people, like, the foundation would be self-awareness, like getting you to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are, getting you to understand what your core values are, what your aspirations are, what goals do you have, and then getting you to understand that there are ways to work on building that self-awareness. And it has a lot to do with your attitude, your effort, and your behavior, which are all things that people need help with. People, we're never taught how to be adults. You kind of just learn as you go, and we're all trying to just figure it out. So why not get help figuring out how to be a better version of yourself. Like, if that's what you want, if you want to grow in ways that you never thought possible, like, I would love to inspire you, or push you past your limits and understand that you have more potential than you think. So yeah, so that was step one: explore. Just, I know I said it briefly, but man, it's already 6:38. So eliminate. What we can either deliberately choose what not to do, or allow ourselves to be pulled in directions we don't want to go. So you have to be deliberate about how you choose to spend your time and energy in life. If you don't, then, like Greg says, you're going to be pulled in directions that you don't want to go. And that's a recipe for, in my last stream I talked about living life on repeat, and that's something that a lot of us go through when we're in our, maybe late 20s, mid 30s, early 40s, whatever it is. Like, you might feel like you've been living your life on repeat for years, and that's a result of you giving up control of the choices that you have in life. And I don't want you to be, in that place. I want to break you out of that. And then step 3 is execute. And that involves creating a system for removing obstacles and making execution as easy as possible. And there's a very popular book called Atomic Habits that is all about creating a process and creating small habits that will lead to really profound transformations over time. So if you haven't read Atomic Habits, highly recommend that. Highly recommend this book, Essentialism. Oh. By Greg. Oh. Yep. Where's the focus? Yeah. So let's keep going. So that was kind of a brief, not so brief intro of those 3, but let me go down to explore. So number 1, explore, has to do a lot with you trying to figure out what your purpose is, or what you enjoy doing. What inspires you? Who do you want to be, as you get older? What qualities do you want to exhibit? And then finding, the things that don't contribute towards that, eliminating all of that, and then executing on doing more of becoming that version of yourself. In our current time-starved world, we don't get that kind of time. But let me go back a little bit. So Frank O'Brien is the founder of Conversations, a marketing services company based in New York. He holds a day-long meeting the first Monday of the month, and his clients know not to expect a response on this do not call Monday. O'Brien wrote, I think it's critical to set aside time to take a breath, look around, and think. You need that level of clarity in order to innovate and grow. And I agree. A lot of the times we don't get time to ourselves to just, think clearly about what's important to us, about what needs to get done next. If what needs to get done next even needs to get done next, we're always moving at a million miles a minute, and if you don't take the time to stop and look around every once in a while, you might miss out. That's Ferris Bueller, I think. But yeah, in our current time-starved world, we don't get that kind of time by default. You have to design it in, and that's what Greg's trying to say, is that you need to be able to set aside time each week. And then for me, that's usually Sunday evenings when I stop to think about, okay, what do I want to try and accomplish for the rest of this week? What would I feel good accomplishing each day and feel like this week was a success? And I have my calendar where I input all the things on Sunday evening, or at least I try to. I don't always get through the whole week. I may get up to like Tuesday or Wednesday, but Monday evening, Tuesday evening, sometimes I'll have a little bit of time to fill out the rest of the week on things that I want to accomplish for that week. And they're all contributing towards my personal missions of what I want to accomplish. And if you don't design that time in, you won't get it. You won't be able to contribute towards your goals. So you want to be able to set aside an hour or two to just gain some clarity on some of the things that you want to do in life. Some goals that you want to achieve. We can all learn to create more space in our lives. Let's see. I'm looking through some of my notes here to see if there's anything that kind of stands out that I would love to share. Oh, there's a section on sleep and how important sleep is. If we underinvest in ourselves, and by that I mean our minds, our bodies, and our spirits, we damage the very tool we need to make our highest contribution. And you'll hear me say multiple times that we are our greatest asset. And if you don't treat yourself as your greatest asset, then you're going to neglect your body. Like if you're not exercising, you're not eating right, you're not sleeping enough, you're not hydrating, you are compromising the very thing that will get you out of all of your problems. That you are, like I say, you are your greatest asset. Treat yourself as such. Some of the most common ways ambitious and successful people damage themselves is through lack of sleep. Some people think that they need to grind 120 hours a week in order to become successful, and that you're just compromising your mental health, you're compromising your physical health, and ultimately you're setting yourself backwards instead of actually moving forward. And so you need to prioritize yourself. You need to prioritize your health, both physical and mental. There's a Harvard Business Review article called Sleep Deficit, the Performance Killer, and it explains how sleep deprivation undermines high performance. The 90% rule for decision making. As you evaluate an option, think about the single most important thing you gain for deciding to go with that option, and give it a score between 0 and 100. If you rate it any lower than 90, automatically change the rating to 0 and reject it. That's got to be tough to do. Like, I might tweet, not tweet, but post this on X, because I just posted this morning, I think, about decision making. But this is a highly essentialist kind of view of making decisions. But like, Yeah, evaluate your options and score those options between 0 and 100. And if you rate anything lower than 90, automatically change it to 0 and reject it. That I'm gonna try that. I'm going to try that and see. I'll report. I'll report back next time. But I'm going to try and think of some choices I have coming up, and yeah, and see if I can apply that kind of rating system. Mastering this essentialist skill requires us to be vigilant about acknowledging the reality of trade-offs, and that kind of goes back to what I had mentioned in the beginning, about the reality of trade-offs. Where did I talk about that? Oh, about the core mind of essentialist. Yeah, I should add that in there. Let's go back down. Moving on to this, so that whole section I just looked through in my notes was the explore section, and I'm moving on to the eliminate section. The first type of non-essential to eliminate is any activity that doesn't align with what you're intending to achieve. And I kind of talked a little bit about that already. Like, if you're deciding to reach a certain goal, or there's someone that you look up to that I wish I could be like that person, like 5 years from now. Your goal should be to eliminate anything that doesn't contribute towards you becoming that person or you achieving your goal in that timeline that you're establishing. So, some questions, what do you really want out of your career over the next 5 years? And I can tell you, from my standpoint, I would love to be able to make a living helping people overcome, stresses and anxieties, helping them see themselves more clearly. I'd love to help people gain more clarity on goals they want to achieve, and then help them achieve them. And I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility at all. It's just I need to gain more clarity on what specific problems all of you are dealing with, and what can I do to help you overcome those issues. And so I think some of the things I need to overcome is my own fear, my own imposter syndrome. Like I believe I'm highly qualified, probably more qualified than a lot of the other like coaching programs that are out there, that I've heard some really crazy stories about, like scam coaching programs that are out there. I would never do that to any of you. Like I hate hearing about the stories where someone hires someone as a coach, telling them they're going to be one on one with them, and then they get a team of people from, like, I don't know, India, or they're some outsourced team, and the person who actually said they were going to do one on one coaching, like, they're nowhere to be found. They take your money and run, and I never want I never want to be that for anyone. I Oh man, like, that's just morally, and just like from a business standpoint, just from a good person standpoint, like that's terrible. Like, I would never want to just steal your money. Like, I would be invested in your success, and I would be all for trying to get you to achieve what you want to achieve. But yeah, so that's the reality of kind of what I want to see out of my career over the next 5 years. But my life could go in a completely different direction. Like, right now, I'm trying to get a corporate job again, just to get the income coming back in, and figuring out things on the side. Figuring out things as we go, and obviously it's going to be tougher now because I have a son, and it's going to take up more of my time, but my son's important to me, and I want to spend time with him. I want to spend time with my wife. My dog, my dog's right here. Like, what about me? Don't you want to spend time with me? Come here. Yeah. Oh, you're so precious. Yes. I want to spend time with you too, Luna. Okay. But yeah. Clarity of purpose so consistently predicts how people do their jobs. I generally agree with that. If we could truly be excellent at one thing, what would it be? That's a good question. If you could truly be excellent at one thing, what would it be? That's a good question for me to answer too. I'm gonna take some time to think about that. And kind of journal about it. I'll write it down. Essentialist principle: the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. Oh. So this is throughout the book there are different essentialist principles that Greg introduces, and this one is the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. Hey, get out of there. Get out of there. Thank you. And one of the examples of this is, I want to scroll down to this because I remember reading this earlier, but it's called the paradox of success, and it happens when you don't keep the main thing the main thing. And so what I mean by that is, let's say you gain clarity on what your purpose is and then you pursue it. And let's say it's like, it's you being your own boss. You start your own business, and that business is doing something very specific. Like you're helping businesses generate more leads, for example. And that's your expertise, and you figure out a way to start your business and then make money, to start doing that. But then success leads, your success leads to other opportunities that begin to arise. And then those new opportunities can become distractions from, what you mainly kind of set out to do. And sometimes people fall into the trap of, pursuing those other opportunities that come up, and then the whole thing falls apart because it's too much. It's too much for them to put on their plate, and so their clarity. Sorry, your clarity becomes clouded when you take on too many opportunities, and instead of providing your highest level of contribution in that main thing that you had going, what your original purpose was, you end up spreading yourself too thin, and then you're going in a million different directions, and that's kind of it's a pitfall that we can fall into when you end up finding success. And so that's one of the things that you kind of want to avoid is, you want to try and stick to your main thing being your main thing. So let me go back to where I was. That was under eliminate. Psychology. Just looking through my notes here. Psychologist. Explains why we writing goal. When writing your goal should be. I wrote this note incorrectly. When writing your goal should be to help the reader have the clearest possible understanding of the most important message or takeaway. Basically, say things as clearly and concisely as possible. I'm going to move on to the next section, execute, because I only have 5 minutes here. I did start late. I can go a little bit into the 7 o'clock hour, but execute. This topic or this thing is something I come across pretty frequently. It's called the planning fallacy, and it's something that everyone does. It's underestimating how long it will take to do a task, and it can happen even when you've done the task before. Ask the following 5 questions in order to avoid the planning fallacy. What risks do you face on this project or goal or whatever it is you're doing? What risks do you face? That's one. What is the worst case scenario? What would the social effects of this be? What would the financial impact of this be? And how can you invest to reduce risks or strengthen financial or social resilience? And I think that's a little bit too involved. I would say, like, one perfect example that I can give from my recent experiences with trying to accomplish my own things with my son now. He's 2 months, but before my son was here, my schedule was full of things that I wanted to accomplish for the day. And can I show the questions? Oh yeah, I can show the questions. I can share my notes actually. Let me, do I have my background up? Let's do this. There we go. Oop, I got rid of myself. Where did I go? Oh, there we go. It was just my notes on the book, but what was I saying? Oh yeah, so before my son was here, I had my schedule was full of things that I wanted to accomplish for the day. And say it was like when I was working on my blog, I was working on researching, writing, or like the bullet points, and then that might have been like the first couple hours of the day, and then it went into Instagram posts, and then it went into the communications course I was taking, and then lunchtime, and you get the point. Like, everything was kind of structured in my day, and it was easy. It was a lot easier to stick to that schedule when my son wasn't here, and planning for all of that was a lot easier. Now, I have to account for, like, let's say my son needs to eat or needs a diaper change, and I'm in the middle of doing something, then I need to account for that extra time in order to accomplish the tasks I want to get done. And I've been a lot better, now that I'm 2 months in, a lot better at assigning enough time to a task. Like one, for example, is I joined a webinar that will help me understand more of the business side of starting like a coaching or consulting business. And those webinars are an hour long, but I have the videos, I have the videos saved, but I need to spend at least 3 hours of my time dedicated to watching them, taking notes, taking a break to, feed my son or change his diaper, whatever it is, or even, am I frozen? I think I froze. But you can still hear me though. Let me change the properties really quickly. Okay. Did my camera die? I'm not 100% certain what happened to my camera. Oh, let me just check this really quickly. Oh. I'm checking to see if my camera is... You know what? I think the battery died in my camera. Oh, that's okay. I will just turn that off, but there we go. I'll just turn that off for now. But so what I was saying was, I have to account for that extra time, because I understand that things are going to come up that will take away from, it'll break my focus on what I'm trying to accomplish. And when you have a clear understanding of how to account for distractions like that, it will help you achieve more and get more done without kind of overbooking yourself or overwhelming yourself with things that you have to get done. So yeah, planning fallacy is something that is very common that a lot of people go through, not understanding just how long things are going to take them to accomplish. And it honestly can be one of the things that people get overwhelmed with when they're trying to achieve a new goal. They don't understand how long something's going to take them, and they don't even try because they might say, oh, it's going to take me way too long to figure out how to do that. Or but yeah, just giving yourself enough time to accomplish what you want to, is pretty essential. An essentialist produces more, brings forth more by removing more instead of doing more. Oh, that's a really great takeaway from the book. And I'm gonna have to stop the stream here, but I'll end on this. I'm working on becoming an essentialist myself and kind of eliminating. I eliminated some things. I eliminated the blog that I was working on. I eliminated working on the TikTok account that I was on, and just wanted to focus this YouTube channel and focus on X, because I've been growing on X, more than I anticipated. But being an essentialist is tough because you need to understand the reality of trade-offs. You need to sacrifice doing things that you might want to try or you might want to do in order to pursue other things that are more important in your life. And it's something that I work on, that I'm going to continue working on, throughout my life. It's not something that I can just call on and be like, oh yeah, I'm an essentialist. Like, I only do what's critically important for me and my family every single day. No, it's not. That's like, I'm not, I'm not Superman or anything like that. Like, I'm a human being, and I make mistakes, and I'm learning along the way, just like you guys. And but yeah, like, we could all use that kind of cultivating that skill of eliminating what's not important in your life and focusing more on what will bring you more happiness, more joy, and more fulfillment. So that's it for this one, and I will catch you guys next Tuesday. All right? Keep learning and keep growing.